Robinson Crusoe, Chapter 19. Robinson discovers a cave, which serves him as a retreat against the savages. In this disposition I continued for near a year after this, and so far was I from desiring an occasion for falling upon these wretches, that in all that time I never once went up the hill to see whether there were any of them in sight, or to know whether any of them had been on shore there or not, that I might not be tempted to renew any of my contrivances against them, or be provoked by any advantage which might present itself to fall upon them. Only this I did. I went and removed my boat, which I had on the other side of the island, and carried it down to the east end of the whole island, where I ran it into a little cove, which I had found under some high rocks, and where I knew by reason of the currents the savages durst not, at least would not, come with their boats upon any account whatsoever. With my boat I carried away everything I had left there belonging to her, though not necessarily for the bare going thither, viz., a mast and sail which I had made for her, and a thing like an anchor, but indeed which could not be called either anchor or grappling. However, it was the best I could make of its kind. All these I removed, that there might not be the least shadow of any discovery or any appearance of any boat or of any human habitation upon the island. Besides this, I kept myself, as I said, more retired than ever, and seldom went from my cell, other than upon my constant employment, viz., to milk my she-goats and manage my little flock in the woods, which, as was quite on the other part of the island, was quite out of danger. For certain it is that these savage people who sometimes haunted this island never came with any thoughts of finding anything here, and consequently never wandered off from the coast. And I doubt not but they might have been several times on shore after my apprehensions of them had made me cautious, as well as before. And indeed, I look back with some horror upon the thoughts of what my condition would have been if I had chopped upon them and been discovered before that, when naked and unarmed, except with one gun, and that loaded often only with small shot. I walked everywhere, peeping and peeping about the island to see what I could get. What a surprise should I have been in if, when I discovered the print of a man's foot, I had, instead of that, seen 15 or 20 savages, and found them pursuing me by the swiftness of their running, no possibility of my escaping them. The thoughts of this sometimes sunk my very soul within me, and distressed my mind so much that I could not soon recover it. To think that I should have done, and how I not only should not have been able to resist them, but even should not have had the presence of mind enough to do what I might have done, much less what now, after so much consideration and preparation, I might be able to do. Indeed, after serious thinking of these things, I should be very melancholy, and sometimes it would last a great while. But I resolved it at last, all into thankfulness to that Providence which had delivered me from so many unseen dangers, and had kept me from those mischiefs which I could no way have been the agent in delivering myself from, because I had not the least notion of any such thing depending, or the least supposition of it being possible. This renewed a contemplation which often had come to my thoughts in former time, when first I began to see the merciful dispositions of heaven in the dangers we ran through in this life. How wonderfully we are delivered when we know nothing of it. How, when we are in a quandary, as we call it, a doubt or hesitation, whether to go this way or that, a secret hint shall direct us this way, when we intended to go that way. Nay, when sense, our own inclination, and perhaps business, had called to go the other way. Yet a strange impression upon the mind, from we know not what springs, and by we know not what power, shall overrule us to go this way. And it shall afterwards appear that had we gone that way which we should have gone, and even to our imagination ought to have gone, we should have been ruined and lost. Upon these and many like reflections, I afterwards made it a certain rule with me that whenever I found those secret hints or pressings on my mind to doing or not doing anything that presented, or to going this way or that way, I never failed to obey the secret dictate, though I knew no other reason for it than that such a pressure or such a hint hung upon my mind. I could give many examples of the success of this conduct in the course of my life, but more especially in the latter part of my inhabiting this unhappy island. Besides many occasions, which it is very likely I might have taken notice of, if I had seen with the same eyes then that I saw with now. But 'tis never too late to be wise, and I cannot but advise all considering men, whose lives are attended with such extraordinary incidences as mine, or even though not so extraordinary, not to slight such secret intimations of Providence, let them come from what invisible intelligence they will. That I shall not discuss, and perhaps cannot account for, but certainly they are proof of the converse of spirits and the secret communication between those embodied and those unembodied, and such a proof as can never be withstood, of which I shall have occasion to give some very remarkable instances in the remainder of my solitary residence in this dismal place. I believe the reader of this will not think strange if I confess that these anxieties, these constant dangers I lived in, and the concern that was now upon me, put an end to all invention, and to all the contrivances I had laid for my future accommodations and conveniences. I had the care of my safety more now upon my hands than that of my food. I cared not to drive a nail or chop a stick of wood now, for fear of the noise I should make should be heard. Much less would I fire a gun for the same reason. And above all, I was intolerably uneasy at making any fire, lest the smoke, which is visible at a great distance in the day, should betray me. And for this reason, I removed that part of my business which required fire, such as burning of pots and pipes, etc., into my new apartment in the woods, where, after I had been some time, I found to my unspeakable consolation a mere natural cave in the earth, which went in a vast way, and where, I dare say, no savage, had he been at the mouth of it, would be so hardy as to venture in, nor indeed would any man else, but one who, like me, wanted nothing so much as a safe retreat. The mouth of this hollow was at the bottom of a great rock, where, by mere accident, I would say, if I did not see abundant reason to ascribe all such things now to Providence, I was cutting down some thick branches of trees to make charcoal, and before I go on, I must observe the reason of my making this charcoal, which was thus. I was afraid of making smoke about my habitation, as I said before, and yet could not live there without baking my bread, cooking my meat, etc. So I contrived to burn some wood here, as I had seen done in England under turf, till it became chalk, or dark coal, and then putting the fire out. I preserved the coal to carry home, and perform the other services which fire was wanting for at home, without danger of smoke. But this is by the by. While I was cutting down some wood here, I perceived that behind a very thick branch of low brushwood or underwood, there was a kind of hollow place. I was curious to look into it, and getting with difficulty into the mouth of it, I found it was pretty large. That is to say, sufficient for me to stand upright in, and perhaps another with me. But I must confess to you that I made more haste out than I did in, when, looking farther into the place, and which was perfectly dark, I saw two broad shining eyes of some creature, whether devil or man I knew not, which twinkled like two stars, the dim light from the cave's mouth shining directly in, and making the reflection. And we'll pause here and we'll continue with this chapter in the next video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. As Tigger says, ta-ta for now.